Donald Trump has lost Fox, and I just have to say that with a smile because the chaos and crumbling that we are seeing out of this administration has just been so enjoyable. Donald Trump's base turned on him over Epstein. We saw Republicans in Congress split with Donald Trump over ACA subsidies. And now the humiliation that he has put on all Americans is being called out by the most humiliating network, Fox, the Fox propaganda outlet of all places. We are going to get into how Trump got called out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into why Donald Trump got called out, I want to start with a little bit of context on the same network, but with a host that we actually enjoy, and it's Jessica Tarlov talking about how Donald Trump has made a mockery of the presidency with his lies and the bile that he spills. So, the border and immigration policy are surveyed separately. So yes, on the border he has high marks, but 51 is still low compared to what he should get. Okay, I'm sorry. The country is split, it's polarized, but on immigration, he's at -6. In terms of the inflation number, it definitely was beating expectations, but if you actually looked at the data, it's missing numbers on the key areas that are costing you more. So no data from October, November on food, shelter, and healthcare, but the gas number was in there because the gas prices are falling. So just take it with a grain of salt. I hope that inflation goes down. We will all be happier. We'll be able to buy more. It'll be a wonderful America if that's true. But they're out there parading around a number that isn't based on any data. Literally, the columns are empty there. I expected something really novel last night, that he was going to have a big rollout, like the Trump accounts, and we didn't get that at all. It was a series of the greatest hits, acting like Joe Biden gave him 9% inflation, but Joe Biden gave him 2.9% inflation. So everything is hanging around where it was. It's objectively true, Jesse. He said the prices are going down. That's how high all the prices went up. He said unemployment is down. It's up to 4.6%, where it hasn't been since 2021. He said that he secured $18 trillion in investment. I asked Grok about that, and Grok said the White House own tallies list totals at around 8.8 to 9.6 trillion, but they include commitments from the Biden administration, double counting, and pledges that were likely to occur regardless due to AI development. Then the crazy stuff like on bringing down drug prices by 600%. I don't know if you saw John Roberts asking Howard Lutnick about that today. You can't bring down prices by 600%. The drug companies aren't paying you to take the medication. And then this warrior dividend. Now that was the thing where I said, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be like the Trump checks or something. This is amazing. But it's not. He's taking already allocated funds that were supposed to go towards housing subsidies for our troops and branding them with his 1776 Trump sticker. So you get a bonus, but you lose a benefit. It's not coming from the tariff pot. It's already been allocated. That is dishonest, and that is very uncool. If there is another explanation, I would love to hear it. But if that is your big marketing item from all of this, and you are just taking money from troops that are moving to a more expensive place and need extra money to live in San Diego, so you can say that you gave them a rebate that's not even from that tariff pot. Not uncool. I understand it is coming from the tariff pot. Greg Gutfeld, do you want to close? Yeah, I would. I hope we can talk about the crimes, the corruption, the criminal. We can talk about all of it, and it's important, and we should. But I think we can also give ourselves the moment to just say, how embarrassing is this guy? How humiliating is it that this is our leader that Donald Trump gets on national television? And I'm not a fan of Survivor. But if you are Donald Trump and interrupting some enjoyable, like just nightly viewing, imposing himself in everything that we do, making us see his face, hear his voice screaming as the Adderall kicks in the shot of B12 that they probably put in his flabby ass to keep him from falling asleep, that's what we have to have our lives interrupted with. It's just gross, especially with the disgusting things that he says. He wants to be omnipresent in our lives. That's what happened today with the announcement of his name change of the Kennedy Center, which is part of the reason that Fox hit back against him, feeling like democracy died today. This is history happening today, and we should all be shocked. Shocked that a felon, a convicted felon, and a thug, and by all means a grifter, has just stuck his name on top of a national monument. This is a desecration. It is embarrassing. It is sad. We do not want this man in our lives. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Trump derangement syndrome isn't talking about our criminal president. Trump derangement syndrome is Trump thinking that we want him to be a part of our lives, that we wouldn't all be happier if he just off and went away, that he has to just impose and impose and impose the narcissist that he is, putting his name everywhere, putting his face everywhere, forcing his voice down our throats. We are tired of it, all of the gimmicks, all of the idiotic pettiness. And it's not just us. Funny enough, it is Fox host as well, because Brian Kilmeade had this to say. Brian, are you pro troll plaque? No, I'm not. I'm not for this at all. I don't think so. They got to take or just mock President Trump or put something on his plaque. So I'm not for the auto pen. If he's going to do it outdoors and do that, just do it right. Just put the profiles up there. I'm not for dispelling or saying anything bad. Plus, a lot of presidents that people think were bad, like Ulysses Grant, ended up being looked at as great. I don't think it's going to happen with Joe Biden, but I'm not for the trolling. I think it's a little funny that Brian Kilmeade's criticism of Donald Trump with these ridiculous plaques that he put outside the White House is kind of baked into a well. Imagine what Democrats are going to do going forward. And that's a lot of the criticism that you've seen from Republicans and conservatives lately, which is, okay, Trump is breaking these laws now. But what happens when Democrats do this? Remember the question that was asked at the Turning Point USA event where J.D. Vance's fat face probably grabbing Erica Kirk's ass in the green room. Remember when the question came up of, you see the National Guard sent to these blue states and blue cities, but what happens when Democrats do that? And in asking what happens when Democrats do that is an admission of guilt, right? They're admitting that what's happening is bad if it got flipped on them. They're happy to do it because they don't care about the law or norms, or they're not patriotic people. They don't love this country, right? They're deeply political and angry at us. That's it. But they're admitting, and Brian Kilmeade is admitting here, that what happens when Democrats come in and mock Donald Trump, when we call his ballroom the Barack Obama ballroom, or when we erase all memory of him from our history. Of course, after we put everyone in this administration in jail, which should be the case, that's what they're worried about. And they should be, because there is going to be some retribution. It's deserved. It's the only way we'll heal. And it's what Adam Schiff was talking about right here. Well, when I issued that letter, it was concerns that they wouldn't be forthcoming in what they were going to provide to the American people. And those fears have become all too realized today with this completely unlawful withholding of information from the Justice Department. It is a violation of the law, and I think, frankly, the remedies now have to be stronger than what I earlier proposed. I think we ought to bring Pam Bondi before the Senate Judiciary Committee, demand answers as to why the department has violated the law. It's not just that they had 30 days to go through this to do the production. They've had the whole year to do it. They promised to release the files. They haven't done it. They could have been completely ready for this moment, and they're not. Or they're just simply willfully withholding the materials. I think the Judiciary Committee should do its real oversight and bring her in and demand answers. I also think we need an Inspector General's investigation of what they've done and to ride shotgun on this to make sure that they're producing everything they're required to. We should consider other remedies, including litigation if necessary, but there needs to be accountability here. What did you think they would do? I mean, are you at all surprised that they've been less than forthcoming? I'm not surprised that they have withheld, but I am surprised that it is to this scale. What I imagine would happen is they would make a production today, and then we would have to fight to find out what was redacted and what wasn't. The statute requires them to make a report to Congress within 15 days about anything that withheld and what they produced. I think we should also demand that right now, because what Todd Blanche is saying is, we've given you some now, we'll give you some later, we may give you some after that. If they read the statute as saying that they can string this out indefinitely and await giving us that cataloging, what they produced and what they haven't, we may never find the answer to that question. So at a minimum, the Justice Department needs to produce that summary, that log right now. What have they produced now? What have they withheld? And why have they withheld it? And those answers need to be provided ASAP. If you put back sort of your investigator-prosecutor hat on, Pam Bondi went on Fox News and told the hosts of a program there that the list is sitting on her desk. She does an about-face before releasing any list. Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan and talked about 300 gigabytes of data, videotapes and pictures and whatnot. He testified before Congress that there's nothing that basically Epstein didn't traffic any women to anyone, and we know from the survivors that that is a lie. What do you think they are all butting up? What do you think they see that turns Bondi and Patel into liars on the specific issue of the Epstein file, something they've talked about for years? Well, the only one they really serve is Donald Trump, so they must see something in those files that they don't want to share with the American people. Now, it may not be evidence of criminality on Trump's behalf, but it may be evidence that that embarrasses the president, reflects poorly on the president. And of course, written into that legislation is very explicit prohibition on withholding anything for reasons of reputational harm to any elected official. So that is not a legal basis for them to withhold information. But I wouldn't be surprised if, as a practical matter, they have promised the president they won't release anything that makes him look bad, even if it comes at the cost of the victims getting the full information. And that's just not going to cut it. If we're going to do serious oversight, frankly, unlike what we've done so far, Bondi needs to come in and actually answer questions, not just use her time to try to insult or attack members of the committee. But we need this on a bipartisan basis. The legislation passed on a bipartisan basis. Both parties ought to insist on answers. And if not, I think the public needs to hold them accountable for this continuing cover-up. Danielle Bensky, one of the survivors, talked about the manipulation from Epstein and his allies that continues now that even though he's dead. And I wonder, as the issue becomes more front of mind for a larger swath of Americans, 81% of Americans think Donald Trump is covering something up in the Epstein files, as numbers, I'm sure, will swell as news reports cover what is and is not in today's release. Would you consider legislation to protect the survivors who have spoken out? Oh, absolutely. They have endured enough as it is, and I know many survivors have reported that they've experienced threats and terrible communications that they've received. No one should go through that additional trauma, but I agree there the manipulation continues. It seems to continue even beyond the grave. It continues in the form of this kind of slow walking of information and release of information. We have to hit back against this administration. It is the only way to heal. It is truly, I believe, that we can't restore the soul of the nation. We can't, hold hands and sing Kumbaya. There has to be accountability. We have to show that these people broke the law. When you do that, there are consequences. We're going to be talking about that on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. Until next time, I'll see you.